Hey everybody, Gary here, and this is the Sony RX0 Mark II. And if you're looking for a second camera for vlogging, hiking, or street photography, this might be a great option for you. Here are 5 reasons why it's great, and 5 reasons why you might be looking elsewhere for a second camera. First is durability, and this is key because I doubt that any other camera that I mention or allude to in this video can match the sheer ruggedness of the RX0 II. It's waterproof, drop-proof, crush-proof, and frankly, it's pocket-proof. You can throw this in any pocket or any bag or any pond for that matter and not worry about scratching the lens or denting the housing or taking on water. For hiking, it should endure just about anything you throw at it. And for everyday shooting, it's practically indestructible. You can easily leave this in the elements for a 2-hour time lapse without any worry of a rain shower damaging it in the slightest. Next is compactness. I mean, this is bordering on secret agent ninja level discreetness. While thick, it's significantly shorter and more narrow than the RX100 series cameras, or your smartphone for that matter. Another win if you're looking for a camera that you can take anywhere, a companion for your primary camera or your smartphone. Next is image quality. The 1-inch sensor in the RX0 II is roughly 4 times the size of the one found in your smartphone. That alone translates to better images with less noise, particularly in low-light environments. But it's the ability to capture raw images that sets its stills apart from the rest, letting you get more detail out of shadows, more easily retain highlights without overexposing, and just plain flex on people that are still using straight-out-of-camera JPEGs. Sure, you don't have the computational sorcery of a smartphone, but for creative pros and professionals, RAW is still the gold standard for post-processing. Next is video quality. Image quality also shines in video, where, like a raw image, S-Log2 and other cinematic picture profiles allow you to tweak your exposure, color, and contrast in your favorite video editing suite far beyond the MP4 produced by your smartphone. And it has an external microphone input, which can instantly elevate your production quality with respect to audio. With 4K 30, time-lapse mode, and plenty of high frame rate options, you've got a professional range of high-quality video options in a tiny bulletproof package. It's the versatility that makes the RX0 Mark II a compelling second camera. It accepts a standard tripod plate so you can place it anywhere a GorillaPod might grip onto. With some workarounds, you could have an entirely superior webcam to your colleagues on MS Teams. Or Twitch, for that matter. It's small and discreet enough to capture a second video angle in view without drawing any attention to itself. Or it can serve as your single fixed view for your bedroom vlog. With RAW and S-Log output, your current creative workflow is uninterrupted. And that's without mentioning the simple, fun edits and adjustments you can make in the associated mobile apps to perfect your Instagram story without having to go back and forth between your desktop. So what's stopping you from buying a couple of these bad boys right now? Well, I'll tell you. For starters, there's the lack of continuous autofocus. It's sort of the big elephant in the room for the RX0 II. Granted, if you're vlogging at arm's length, setting your focus between takes is not the end of the world, but you lose the confidence that continuous autofocus provides. The tiny flip-up screen provides some indication you're in focus, but I'd feel more reassured if the camera was constantly tracking my face or eyes, flippy screen or not. The 2.0 firmware update introduced single autofocus during recording, which is great, but you'll probably want an external microphone attached if you don't want to pick up audible focusing noise. Then there's the ergonomics. This is a tiny camera with tiny buttons and a tiny screen with a tiny menu. You're going to need, at a minimum, a wired or Bluetooth remote and a GorillaPod or travel tripod to use this regularly with some degree of comfort. You'll often use your smartphone as a remote viewer in order to accurately frame your shots. It's more so a professional's camera than a hobbyist's camera. In order to get the most out of it, you're going to need to put in that extra effort of a more deliberate and dedicated content creator. Next is the electronic image stabilization, and it's better than nothing. And better still if you apply some stabilization in post using your preferred editing suite. That said, it's not in the same class as other compacts with optical image stabilization or the impressive electronic stabilization in the current crop of action cameras, and it won't help you with still photography at all. If you want perfectly smooth footage straight out of camera, you're gonna need a gimbal, which sort of cuts against one of the main selling features, compactness. Then there's the fixed focal length in 2020. Basically, every flagship smartphone of the past year has at least 2 cameras, usually 3, so a single 24mm equivalent shooter seems somewhat limiting, despite having superior raw image quality than a tiny smartphone sensor. Then there's the relatively slow aperture of f4. While the large sensor will allow you to get some out-of-focus backgrounds when you're at the minimum focus distance, it's not going to perform as well in low light as the Sony RX100 series, with their f1.8 on the wide end, 24-70 equivalent zoom, in front of the same 1-inch sensor. And finally, there's price. At $899 Canadian, this is not a cheap camera. It's not cheap compared to some entry-level interchangeable lens cameras with better image quality, like the Sony a6100. Compared to most action cameras, it's downright expensive. And compared to the RX100 lineup, which share the same 1-inch sensor, it's also quite expensive, especially when you consider how many RX100 cameras can be found on the used market. And if you put that money towards a high-end smartphone, you'll have a highly portable second shooter with multiple sensors and focal lengths. And a phone. Like apps. The RX0 Mark II is a tremendously capable camera for photographers and videographers that you can throw in your pocket and take absolutely anywhere without worrying about destroying the damn thing. Fixed focal length cameras like the Fuji X100 series and high-end compacts like the Sony RX100 series are popular second camera options that hobbyists will look for. They offer adequate image quality compared to your primary camera while being compact enough that you've always got room for them in your bag. Action cameras are durable, compact alternatives with superior stabilization to boot, but they're lacking in the image quality department, particularly if you have to crop in their massive wide-angle images and video to a more usable end product. The RX0 Mark II threads this needle. It has the more than adequate image quality of a 1-inch sensor with professional output formats, all while being smaller and tougher than any of its competitors. And therein lies the rub. It doesn't really have a competitor. It's not an action camera. It's not a personal compact camera. It's basically a really good sensor in a tiny indestructible package with a 24mm lens in front of it. So if that sounds like your kind of companion camera and a little autofocus issue and a month's rent aren't deal breakers for you, get it. This little screen is adorable. So that's it. How would you use a camera like the RX0 Mark II? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, subs if you loved it, make sure you hit that bell notification so you get notified the next time I upload something else, and until next time, take more photos. Later.